I want to share with you a story in this quarter's Coaching Corner that happened a few weeks ago. You know, we actually had the opportunity and the honor of speaking at the Yankee Dental Congress back in January. And one of the doctors came up to me after the lecture and he said, Sean, you know, he said, there's a couple of times where I've just had no patients in the schedule. And so, obviously, he said, I sent everybody home. And now, I'm considering cutting back to 3 days. What are your thoughts? Well, boy, I have a lot of thoughts on that. And so, hopefully, in relating this, some of the things that I told him, hopefully you can take some pearls away and implement it with your practice and your team as well. The first thing I would say is this. You know, it is entirely possible that if you have a systematic approach in terms of organizational behavior, if you have the right management systems in place, if you have open, solutions-oriented communication, it very well is possible, if not probable, that you can grow your production and collection in 3 days and do more than what you used to do in 5 days. Of course, that's not at all the driving force and the particular situation that this doctor that we're talking about was really in. So the first thing I would say to really address that is, number one, after hearing this doctor make these statements, it's obvious that he's coming from what we call a shrinking mentality. That is a very dangerous place to be. You know, one of my mentors told me one time, Sean, he said, you know what, you can never shrink to grow. And I believe that. That's totally true. The place that he's coming from right now, though, is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you have to really realize that when you're thinking this way, it must inevitably come to pass. So you have to cognitively, consciously change the way you're thinking, and that's really step one. If you're willing to do that and not put yourself in a position where you're coming from that shrinking mentality, then you'll no longer be making decisions from that shrinking mentality. You'll be making decisions from a possibility standpoint, and that's really where you need to be. The second thing I would say would be this. You know, recognize that the results that he needs to recognize that the results he's getting in this particular example are really a call to action. They're a message. And that message is you got to get out of what we call the do trap. The do trap is where you're working so very hard in your practice, doing the things that must get done, that you really don't ever focus on working on the practice, working on the business. And those are the things that really create the work that you get to do. So if you're working in what Gerber calls tactically, and you forget to work on the business strategically, then you'll end up eventually with nothing else to do. And that's really just the way it works. I think the biggest part of that, to think strategically, especially if you're in the situation where things are not going as well as you'd like them to go, is to realize that at the end of the day, you know what? You really are in control. Now, I know sometimes we think of ourselves as having a job. Goodness, I hope nobody out there thinks of your practice that way. But if you're in that mindset, then you really have lost control of the things that you have the ability to take control of. And so you end up being at the mercy of things. You end up being at the mercy of the economy, at the mercy of your patients, every whim, at the mercy of whatever's going on locally in your area, and so forth and so on. What we say at the Ctabtree Group is you have to take control of the things that are within your ability to control. And if you don't, honestly, then the things that are outside your control will eventually control you. So the first thing is you have to recognize you have to change the way you're thinking. The second thing is realize that you can control the particular outcome and the predicament that you're in, and just change the way that you've been doing things in the past. Get out of the do trap. Get into working strategically in your business. Now here's where it all meets the road. And this will be the third thing that I would say. Assuming you got the first two steps in place, then the next thing I would say is this. Get two plans. One of them immediately. Plan one is in this example, if we're talking about no patients in the schedule, then plan 1 is, let me figure out systematically what has to happen to have us reverse the particular result. In this case, no patients in the schedule. So let me analyze. What are we doing from a marketing standpoint? What are we not doing from a marketing standpoint? What's working from a treatment acceptance standpoint? What about confirmations, no-shows, cancellations? What about recovering that treatment that slipped through the cracks, or all that hygiene that's sitting out there that slipped through the cracks? Figure out a plan immediately to get one of those things, whichever one holds the most opportunity, in place right now so you can begin to reverse the result that you're getting. And that's really, at the end of the day, what's going on with your schedule. Is it's a message, it's a call to action for you. If you put your head in the sand and send everybody home, you're not going to hear the message. You're only going to end up avoiding what it has to tell you. So, get plan 1 in place as quickly as possible. Figure out systematically what has to happen in terms of those areas, in this example, to fill the schedule. And then here's the most important plan, and that's plan 2. Plan 2 is, write this down, by the way, how is it that you and your team are going to be systematically, consistently, so that you never, ever allow yourselves to fall into the do trap again? You're not going to consistently focus on the things that you have in front of you to do. Instead, you're going to be focusing strategically on working on the business, so that while you're constantly doing the things you have to do, you're also making sure that you're creating the work that needs to be done. I hope that makes sense. The Wall Street Journal had an article recently about the fact that for the first time in history, general dentists in the U.S. are making more money than family medical practitioners. And the reason they highlighted this, for this, was that dentists, many dentists across the U.S. recognize the fact that they have to run their practice like a business, and they go out and they seek counsel. They seek a business coach. You know, we like to think that we're the best out there, but there are many companies out there. Find somebody you can trust, find somebody you can identify with, and go to work. Whatever they tell you to do, just follow their advice, because while you've been cutting crowns, they spent the years in business and coaching business. You can't fail if you follow their advice. So the last thing I would say is, go get some coaching. And above all else, avoid the do trap. Thank you. I'm Sean Ctabtree. See you next time.